włączyłeś, nie? No właśnie chciałem powiedzieć, że jesteśmy na moście na kanale w Gandawie. Tutaj jest sklep z czekoladkami angielskimi, które należało będzie kupić. Jest jakiś barista coffee, to trzeba będzie napić kawę. I że jak już tutaj wejdziemy, to pójdziemy tam. Jeszcze weź to, bo to ładne, tak nie było. Some of the flavors. So generally, my essay starts in 2006, and it was I was giving a paper which was then kind of shocking. It was very well received. I mean, it had lots of comments. Generally, there's a poem in Polish, and this poem is quite known, and it was always understood as incomprehensible. There is this topic of poking, okay? And I said that simply this poem is not really difficult. This poking is cleaning the anus before having anal sex. Like I said it in the paper, and then there was this discussion, and people were saying this was very interesting, blah blah blah, officially. And then unofficially I learned that one top professor said this was the end of science in Poland. So now this text was reprinted, it was translated into English, and it's quoted in most books on the writer, so it became classical, but that was 10 years ago, so it's fast. So I wish to poke around in this phrase, this is the end of science, okay? The idea that gender studies and queer ones, even more so, are not science is recurrent. One of the sources of this idea is the general cultural assumption that sexuality is a private matter. Surprisingly enough, many people still believe that. I wish to argue that the existence of a discipline called sexology also contributes to the sexuality in music if we have a distinctive discipline called sexology. They know what sex is, the others might only infer their own vague impressions and experiences, which don't count as scientific proofs. If this is supposed to be science, then yes, queer studies and a huge part of contemporary humanities is the end of science. And hooray! The end of science as we know it, or as we knew it a century ago. The understanding of science and its limits contributes also to the idea of university academy, which is where sexless science is practiced, and university as a sexless place. A moment ago I dared to presume a working definition of queer studies as an intersection of several disciplines. I cherish very much the idea that queer is also a movement of thinking that does not want to be defined. Because being defined is being closed in a box of some definition. Its boundaries are in perpetual motion. It doesn't mean certainly that we are eternally unable to speak of what queer does and what it might do in some future. But in fact, I believe that this ironic idea of movement and non-pigeonholiness and the refusal to be caught, described, and thus controlled, as a butterfly, for instance, is the new science. Let me show briefly how such gaze might work. I have a great example at hand, the topic that I've been approaching now for a moment. We have the academy as an apparently sexless institution, though inside we have a chamber closed with a key, which is called sexuality. And inside this chamber we have, sexology, we have a coffer closed with a very strange key, which some facetious or childish people believe to look like a phallus. Queer people would say a dick, but, yuck. And this coffer is called homosexuality, and there's also a dead butterfly somewhere by the window. The academy is sexless, because the chamber called sexuality doesn't involve people called academics going there as if it was a toilet or a darkroom to have a furtive intercourse, not to mention oral sublimations called discussions. Somewhere above, I use the word undisciplined. Queer is undisciplined, new humanities should be undisciplined. I also prompted the undefinability in queer already present and the ideal and utopian horizon of redefined science. Nikki Sullivan approaches what queer is this way, among other attempts. It is a discipline that refuses to be disciplined. A discipline with a difference, or with a twist if you like. This is Nikki Sullivan, and then Rosemary Hennessy also adds an undefinition. Queer theory is an ensemble of knowledges, many of them contesting knowledges.
Amsterdam, Muzeum Seksu.